So, what is the one thing that separates all the most successful people from the rest of the world? Okay, there's probably not one thing only, but I'm about to share with you one of those things. Hi, it's David with another entry into the Leadership Library with ideas and tools for people like you who just can't help but change your world or to find a better way to get there. So what's that one thing or one of those things that really does differentiate the most successful from the rest of the world? Not just successful at work, but successful in life and often the most fulfilled. It's really simple. Those people, which may include you, do one thing better than everyone else, which is that they know the importance of to reflect and plan. So that's the one thing. In fact, what I'll be sharing in this video, for people who reflect and plan, they're able to make a change to their own reality. And I talk about that in another video, which if you want to go deeper in this, you can click in the upper right-hand corner and reference that because it's a foundational idea for people who are changing the world. But let's talk about to reflect and plan. The busy ones of us, which includes you, no doubt, I know I'm busy. When we are super busy, generally what we're doing, if we're not paying attention, is we're working in the business. We are delivering the outcomes that whatever it is that we've committed to for our customers, for other people, to make sure that everybody gets what they want. We're working in the business, and that can become all-consuming. What we're not doing is we're not working as much on the business or in life. That's where the reflecting and planning actually comes in. So if you want to change the world, it's really important that you do take that time to reflect and plan. That's how you change your reality. And again, refer to that video up in the upper right-hand corner if you want to go deeper in what that means. But when you reflect and plan, if you want to change the world, what you're going to do is first you're going to ask yourself, where's the world headed? And then from there, you can look at your own future and your own past and the future of the world, the past of the world, and start to get some context so that then you can also pay attention to the capacity that you have. Are there gaps? Are there things that you need or your organization needs to learn or develop? And then from there, you can begin to build a strategy and a plan. Now, if you do this over and over, you might not necessarily need to go deep in each one of those at every step. But it's something that those who reflect and plan do. Now, you may have your own way to do it. You may have learned a methodology. Great. What's important, though, is that you take the time and you make the commitment to do it on a regular basis. And if you want the same outcomes, if you're perfectly happy with the way things are, then don't do this. But if you do want to make big change, if you're leading big change, taking the time and making it a habit to reflect and plan is absolutely essential. Look, it's hard. I worked with a group of really successful leaders, about 50 people in the group, and we just talked about the importance of reflection. So I asked them a question. I said, if you had all the time and you could commit to all the time you felt you needed, what would the ideal amount be? And then once they had that number, I said, how many of you, of these 50, do 100%, invest 100% of that time? Not one hand. 50%, still no hands. 25%? No. When I got to 10%, about 10% of the people raised their hands. About 5 people raised their hands. So it's hard, even for the most successful. They know they need to do it, and still it's hard to do. But if you can build that habit today, it's one of those things that definitely, it's compounding interest. It will pay off over time. And you will, if this group is representative, and I think it is, you'll also be much different than other people. Even if it's not in your job to be the strategy person or something like that, it's still valuable in work and in life. So how do you do it? First, you make the time. I would suggest that you make it a time that when you think of that time of day or that time of week or a particular day of the month, then when that day arrives, it's almost like if you've done it enough, your body almost says, okay, I have to do my reflection and planning right now. It just becomes a habit. I know I have that. I do mine every single morning, and when that time hits on the at that time of day, if I'm not starting that process, I almost get uncomfortable because it's become such a habit. But it was a hard-won habit to create. It did not come easily. So also I would recommend that if you're wanting to build this habit, that you plan it earlier in the day than later in the day. Because you know, and I know, that by 10 in the morning, what the day you thought you were going to have and the day you're actually having have diverged greatly. So the earlier in the day you plan for it, the more likely it is that it will happen. In fact, when I tried to do it in the afternoons. It's never happened because my day had already gone off the rails of the original plan. Earlier in the day, probably earlier in the week, because the same thing happens by the end of the week. It's so many surprises have appeared in your life, it's harder to do. So make it early. Another, start small. You know, if this is a new habit, whether it's this or any other habit, start ridiculously small. One of the best ways to make your new habit fail is to say, I'm going to do this all the time in the biggest ways, like the people who have already been doing it for 20 years are going to do it. Yeah, you'll fail. Any of us will fail because you don't have the system built, the muscle memory's not there yet. So start ridiculously small. Then, for this in particular, pick a different location from where you work in the business, because this is working on the business or on your life. Pick a different location that you don't associate with, face down working in the business. So maybe that's a coffee shop. Maybe it's working at home instead of the office. Maybe you sit out on the back deck. Maybe you're out in nature. Whatever. If you live by the ocean or by water, go there. Like whatever lights you up. But I will say location matters. In fact, something that is more spacious will make it easier for you to reflect. And if you don't have a big room, then go somewhere with windows, because then you've got all the room includes the outside thanks to the windows. And it really matters. The space matters. Also, tell other people that you're doing it. Because at the very least, sometimes the only reason you'll do it is because you know you committed to somebody else that you were going to do it, and they're going to ask you, and you do not want to be embarrassed and say you haven't done it. So you got that backstop of having told other people, and they help hold you accountable. Then also, protect it like your life depends on it. I know that there are some meetings that you would not miss for your life. This has to become one of them. Why is that so important? How did that get there? Well, if you're building compounding interest, this is a great investment to make. And reflecting and planning on a regular basis really is something that produces compounding interest. Then what we're going for is the habit of reflecting and planning. Okay, so you may not see brilliant outcomes from it the first time you do it, because if you've always focused on the doing, pulling back and using another part of your brain takes some time to get into that groove. But that's why doing it at the same time of the day, hopefully earlier of the week, or whatever the time period you want to look at is, doing it at the same time, just that time will tell you, like looking at your clock or whatever it is, will start to tell you, oh, I need to be doing this. And it will become actually a muscle memory. I'm sure you have locations that when you show up there, or rituals, rooms in your house or in the office, when you go there, you just start to, it's like, oh, in this place I need to do this thing. Or at this time I need to be doing this thing. That's what we're going for to create the habit of the habit. So it's a really simple idea. Reflect and plan. Not an easy thing to do. And what differentiates the most successful people from the rest of the world? A few things, probably, but definitely this is near the top of the list. I want that for you, and I'd love to hear how it's going. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.